There we are. Hey guys. Welcome back to my videos. I know I haven't really posted for like a month or so, and it's really cool to see as time goes on, even though it's been about a month, that people are still subscribing, and I'm also getting comments on these videos, kind of showing, that people like them and so on, and that's great. If you watch the videos, please come in, subscribe, like the video. It just lets me know that people are watching it. And it gives me a reason to come back. It really does. But overall, I wanted to just kind of touch up on a few other items. So I know we did events in a previous video. So what my goal here, I think, and I kind of put a little bit of thought as far as how we're going to um, do the different videos themselves. And I think what I've decided to do, if there we are, is kind of break the rooms up. So we have our events room, which I'll rebuild, but again, we covered that in another video. And here, I'd like to kind of cover the movements. So when you go into a script, for instance, this right here is events. So we covered all of that in a previous video. And then motion or movement is really what I kind of want to cover in this right here and what each one of these different items do individually. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the move to. And you have two different ones. You have move to, which is instant motion, and then move to over time. So I have each one of these, rotate to, rotate by, and so on. I have each one of them coded for a move to instantly or a whatever instantly, and then also an over time to kind of show you the difference. And then we'll kind of come over here and look at a few of the odds and ends, other than just movement, but interacting with certain objects. So I think the first one I'd like to kind of start with is this move to. Um, I didn't want to open that. I wanted to open this here. So our move to script, basically there's four different pieces in here. Ignore all of it except for just one. Um, so I'm going to pick out this first one here, for instance, button one down. This is just so I can program a bunch of different things to the one cube. Button one down with player. So when I click the button one, we're going to move the target, which in all of these, that triangle over there is going to be considered the target. So we're going to move the target to position B, right? And I have a position A and a position B. That way it just goes back and forth. So the move to, what you're going to notice is there is a move to instantly, which is why it's jumping back and forth. So if I move to position B instantly, position A instantly, it kind of does this whole thing. Or you can do move to position A over 3 seconds or position B over 5 seconds. So as you can tell, it goes slower one direction than the other. So so these ones right here, move to over time. The smaller the number, the faster it goes. The bigger the number, the slower it goes because it's taking that time frame and it's taking 5 seconds versus 1 second, if that makes sense. Um, so that is basically the gist of the movement block as far as being able to do instantly or move to over time. And in some of the later videos, we'll get a little more into this and see some of the other cool things that we can do with it. Other than just moving it from point A to point B, we can move to the position of another object. And if that object moves somewhere else, this follows and so on. So do keep that in mind. We got our move by. So unlike move to, where I have specified a position for it to go to. I said, I want you to go to that position, and then position A, I want you to go to that position. Move by doesn't care what position it is, it cares what are we moving by as far as vector. So where it is now in this world, if I push button one down, it's going to move on the X axis by 4 units, wherever that X is. And then if I do a negative unit, it'll move backwards on that line. And then depending on if it's on X, Y, or Z, it'll either come out and in or back and forth. So I have it going back and forth, and then I have the instantly move over, so it's going to go over 4 and then go back 1 unit, which actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to back 3 units. That way it almost goes back to its original position. And then I'm going to change this to 2. That way we can see a little bit of the change. So basically what happens is if I click the button down, it moves over time by 4, and then if I let go, it moves almost back because it only moves back by 3 over an amount of time as well. And so the longer I do this, you're going to notice it moves 4 steps forward, 3 steps back, 4 steps forward, 3 steps back, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and move it back over there. The other thing is instant movement. So it instantly moved up by 4. It instantly moved back by 3. And so you can kind of see it kind of doing its little tiny steps going out the doorway there. So that right there would just be a, where'd it go? There we go. A move by versus a move to specific versus wherever this is, just move it over by however many units. Then we have this rotate to. So we have rotate to and rotate by. I'll kind of cover them both together here. So rotate to, obviously, it's going to rotate to a specific rotation. So if you look at my script here, I have rotate to rotation A, and then rotate to rotation B. And those are specific rotations that I got. Let me take a look here. Here we are. So here's the cone. Wherever the cone is, I can see the position and the rotation right here, which we covered in a previous video, but just kind of recapping on there. If I move this, you can see that the rotation is moving, and then you can see that the position is also moving depending on where this is in the world. So that's where I got the numbers from, if you're wondering, well, how do I know where I'm moving it to or rotating it to? And then just, again, rotate to, we have the instant movement, and then we also have the over time. And then we have our rotate by. So rotate by is going to be the same thing by move by. Instant, as you can see, it's kind of rotating instantly, whereas if I rotate over time, you can actually see what it was doing in the background when it was doing, its instant movement. So rotate to over time, and then rotate to instantly. Or I guess that's rotate by, and then you got your rotate to. Scale to. So you got scale to over time and then instantly as well. This one is actually pretty neat. I actually found a way to break the world with this, which I don't know if I'll cover it at the end of this video or if I'll cover it in another video. Definitely look out for that. If anything, I might name it Inside Out blocks. And again, we'll cover that. But this is a really cool thing that I just found a few things with. So this is just scale to instantly, and then this is scale to over time. And again, just looking at the script here, basically all I'm doing is telling it to scale to this size instantly, and then scale to this size over time based on what buttons I'm pushing. And if we go back to its attributes here, you can see right here scale to. So if I grab this, for instance, and I start blowing it up, you're going to notice that the scale to also blows up. And then if I grab it and bring it down, scale to brings it down. So that's where I got the scale options from. So that will, for the most part, let me go ahead and come back over here. That will cover the physical motion, or I apologize, not the physical motion, the instant motion and the motion over time. So we have our move, rotate, and scale all lined out here. Well, then, let me put this over here. We have our player motion, which is our respawn here. We have our physical motion, which is over here that we're going to go through, as well as push, and then launch. So that will cover our physical motion, our push. I think I have spin over by push as well, so we'll cover that in that section, and then our launch from object. And we'll kind of finish up there. So in this case here, we have our respawn block. And basically the respawn block, all I've done is said, okay, so I've set Oh, okay. So the first part is just telling it where it wants to put this block at. I just wanted to reset it. That way, when I let go of this block, when grab ends, it automatically moves itself back. What was happening was I was losing it, so you can kind of forget that part of it there. That's all that's saying. The second part is really where you want to pay attention. This is the only part that actually matters to the script. So when I grab this block and I pull the trigger, right, what's going to happen, it's going to respawn the player to the target. In this case, I've pulled out one of these wonderful little spawn points that we covered in a previous video, and I've attached it to this script here via variable target, and that's where we're now respawning. Um, so I pull the trigger and I've respawned. I can go into a whole nother room and now it respawns me back into this room. So that's how respawn itself will work. And again, there's a few other things that you can do with this object. I've covered this in I think I covered it in the Gizmos video. I'll have to take a look, but do watch that as well. Physical motion. This is pretty neat because there's a couple different things that you can use in this. So as you can see, there's a lot that's kind of coded in this. Don't let that get to you. Really, it's very simple. At the very end, it's just telling me that I want to move this back to the original place, the block. Again, I got tired of losing it. And then it also moves the target back to its original place. That way you don't throw the ball. This section up here is really what you want to look at. And the reasoning for it is because there's three different things that we're going to do here. Number one is we're going to disable object physical motion. And that's what this is here, right? We have enable object physical motion, which is here. And then there's also, why they put it down here, I'm not sure, or why it's not grouped up here, but you have a stop physical motion. Now, the difference between these are this ball here, right? When I throw this ball, this right here disables the, let's go ahead and put that back. This right here disables the motion. It's not going to move. If I grab it, it's not going anywhere. If I enable the motion, it then lets it move again. So that's disable and enable. The other item, the third item, is stop physical motion. So unlike disable and enable, where it's one or the other, stop physical motion will disable it and then enable it. That way, if it's moving, if it's shooting across the sky or whatever's happening, it'll stop it where it is and then drop it. That way, it no longer has that motion. It just kind of stop it and then let it do its thing. So that's going to be the disable, enable, disable, enable, and stop. Over here we have the push and spin and then push and spin local. So you may have noticed that you have a push with mash and push in local space, and then push in local space with mash, spin local space, and so on. You kind of get the picture there. Really with mass, that just adds a little more to it, just telling it what kind of object it is, how heavy do you want that object to be. But what we're really interested in is just push and spin by itself, or push in local space or spin in local space. Now, what's the difference? So a regular push and spin is based on the world, right? So if I say I want to push it, let me grab that here, there we are. So if I say I want to push it, even if I rotate it, let's say this way here, it's still going to push left and right because it's based on the world's vectors, right? X, Y. And then the same thing with spin. If I put it right here and spin it, you're going to notice it spins this way. If I rotate the cube this way, you're going to notice it still spins this way. There's no getting around that. That's just how it is, right? But if you go to push and spin on local space, it doesn't care what the world's vectors is. What it cares is what is this rotated to? Where is this position? And X and Y, for instance, let's say X goes this way. If I turn it this way, X is now this way. So if I stop the object and then push it one way or the other, you're going to notice it goes back and forth. But let's say I grab this and I turn it this way. Now you're going to notice it goes back and forth on this way. And then if I turn it, let's say up and down like this, I can push it down or I can push it up. And now it is lost. So let's reset that there. There we are. And then the spin is the same way. So again, for instance, if I grab push and spin in just the regular spin, it's always going to rotate this way. It doesn't matter if I do it this way, whatever, it's always going to rotate that direction. Again, I can make it rotate any direction based on how I script it, but that's the idea. If I grab the local space though, you're going to notice it's rotating away. There we are. You're going to notice that it actually rotates on itself like this. It doesn't matter if I have it like this, and it'll rotate that way. If I have it like this, it'll rotate that way. Whichever rotation it is, it's always going to rotate the same way on the object itself. So that's the difference between local. Let me put that right there. So local is going to spin that way, whereas the world, it's always going to spin the same way based on the world. And you can do different remote control things with this and things like that. It's really neat. And then here is the last thing that we want to cover here, which is launch from object. And launch from object is really cool. I'm just going to reset the world here so it comes back. So launch from object is really cool because what you can do is you can say, okay, I want to launch my projectile, which is this little tiny ball down here, from the target, which is that little arrow, and I want it to give it a power of 20, right? Let's say I say 3. We're gonna lower it for just this instance here. If I go to launch, you're gonna notice it's just a dinky little throw, right? Just a 3. If I go back to, let's say, 20, now I've pushed a lot more force in it, and you're going to notice it shoots way up in the sky, and then after a little bit, it'll fall back down to Earth. And so that was a power of 20. So we can turn up the power, and what's really neat about this here too is, let's say I turn the power to, let's say 5 for instance. If I point this that direction, it didn't even make it past the wall, right? And so if I have a gun and the launch is too low or I don't have enough power, it's not going to go very far. But if I come back over here and push it back to that original 20, now we're going to notice I can almost shoot it. Oh no, I can. I can shoot it right outside the window. It has so much more power. Obviously, it still has a drop over time because of gravity, but the more you push that up, as far as the power goes, the farther it's going to go. And then you could also even go as far as taking gravity. So for instance, this little block here, I could open this block up and I could say gravity off. And let's turn, here we are. Let's turn this power back to 3 so it's not very fast. Even though it's a low power, because I took the gravity off of the bullet, the projectile, it'll continue going within that space because there's no gravity pulling it back down. And again, if I turn it 20, it would zoom across the map. But those are some of the push. So instead of a movement where you have to say, okay, well, I'm moving it by this or whatever, launch is just pushing that object from wherever this object is pointed at. So that's going to go ahead and cover all of the motion tab here, from instant motion, motion over time, player motion as far as the respawn, and then also physical motion, which is all of these. It doesn't actually move the object in a way that those do. It kind of interacts with the object and kind of makes them move in a certain way. But yeah, Other than that, we'll go ahead and stop this video here. Again, thank you all for subscribing. It really means a lot more than you know. I know it's been a little bit since I've posted a video here. After this video, I am going to go ahead and see about showing you the Scale 2 glitch that I found. It's not really a glitch, it's just the way the world is done. I really recommend trying looking at that there. And then let's go ahead and say goodbye here, and you guys have a wonderful day.